Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Um, I don't know the time you will get to see this live stream, but it's a promise I made on one of our group chats that I was going to help um, take some subscribers, access to this channel, a class on Ielts. So, if you're watching this for the first time, my name is Joy Ojonile Agago, and I teach IELTS. I'm a nurse and I'm a mom. Today it will be a writing tax 1 class, just to give a brief of what is happening to my people, the people I have promised, and fortunately you are one of them. I'm trying to copy this and send to one of the WhatsApp groups so that they can join, and we will kickstart immediately. So give me a few seconds to sort all of that out and I'll be back to you. Thank you. Let's share this for them to see. Yep. I wasn't prepared to use this channel today, but for the sake of keeping this information for others, I just have to do it here today, so I don't have to repeat and repeat and repeat the same thing. So yes, we will be fine in a couple of seconds. Thank you for your patience. I would like you to comment your questions, to comment your concerns, so that we can actually address them in the course of this meeting as well. Yeah, asking when is the chat and the link coming in. I'm waiting for it to upload. That is why. So bear with me, please. Give me a few minutes and I'll make it up with the timing of the class. So yeah. Okay. Yep. Let's see how quick. Okay. So here is the link. drop a message for them. This. All right. Hello. You are welcome to this class this morning. Just drop a message to say that you are watching. I can see you joining. Just drop a message to say you're here and I can actually start. Remember to subscribe just so that when next I come on live, you can be notified. Okay, you get a notification that I am live and you won't miss any of the classes. Today it is Ielts writing task 1. That's what I promised on the group, and we will be tackling it as soon as possible. Mm. All right, so where are all of our things? Where's all of our resources? Let's get to work. The academic IELTS is what you are expected to write if you are a nurse. Before now, it used to be the other one that was made compulsory, the UKVI. But now you don't need a UKVI, you just need to pass your academic IELTS. It can be IDP, it can be British Council, it can be anything among those that are accepted. Just make sure that you make your required band and that will be it. Usually there are 4 modules or sessions or parts in the IELTS tasks, IELTS exam, which is speaking, reading, listening, and writing. Today we will be dealing with the writing task. Writing task is divided into 2. We have writing task 1 and writing task 2. I will be discussing writing task 1 with us today, and we will have another time for other tasks. We might not finish writing task 1. What I'm just going to do today is to give you like tips on how to write an excellent task 1 essay. Now, usually the writing task 1 is an academic style of writing where you are expected to write not less than 150 words, and you have to complete it in 20 minutes. The whole exam lasts for 1 hour. There's 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 minutes for task 2. Task 1 is testing your ability to analyze and explain a given information, and then your answers are presented in your own words, all right, in sentences, in paragraphs, okay, and yeah, very clearly. You are expected to write. I know some countries have started the computerized exams, but in many African countries, we are still using the paper base. So as much as possible, your writing has to be very legible. Write clearly, not that you should count your words or space your letters so much, but you should write clearly such that your examiner is able to read and understand you. Now, there are various types of questions that you will find in the writing tax one, and today we'll be discussing a couple of them and the tips on how to pass them. Now, these question types include the graphs, and we have the bar charts, the pie charts, the floor maps, floor plans, we have maps, all right, process graphs, and we have tables. Um, Before we go into specific question types, there are things that your examiners are looking for. For many of us in nursing school, we say marking scheme. Like, is a scheme of work, is something like the answers, okay, to the question that they have set for you, and like a guide. Yeah, that's what it is. Now, in this guide, they call them the band descriptors, the things that your examiners are looking for in your writing, what they are after, what they compare your writing to. All right. So they are pointers to you having a good essay or a not so good essay. The first one is the task achievement or response. The second one is coherence and cohesion. Yeah, then we have lexical resource, and we have grammatical range and accuracy. Now, for your task achievement, it's going to be talking about the overall writing, what you have done. This component will be assessing your ability to complete a task as you have been instructed. How you follow the structure, your introduction of the task, the rephrasing or paraphrasing of your question prompt, um, the complete summary that you have given, noting your key features, highlighting the key features, writing not less than 150 words and not too many words as well. For task one, like I said, is 150 words the least, and then for task two is 250 words the least. So it can be more. But remember that in a multitude of words, a multitude of writing, many times mistakes are present. So you have to be careful not to write too much for a task one or too small for a task one. Now, for me, I usually advise people to write within the range of 150 to 180 maximum, a maximum of 180, 170 even. I mean, you're going to be writing and you are timed, you are under pressure for time. So minimize your words, use like the condition appropriate words and tenses so that your work will make a lot of sense. So your task achievement will be accessing how many words you have used. They have a way of counting it, yeah. The time you spent on it, of course. If you spend too much time, your overall work is not going to be in order. You'll probably run out of time and you might not complete your work. Okay. Now, your how you answer the question, your ability to achieve the outcome of that question, what they wanted you to do, like the highlighting of key features and you being able to complete your work, the summary that you have given, the writing task one or task two. The overall thing about task achievement is that it accesses your work in general, the number of words, the time you spent on it, your ability to answer the question correctly, and all of that. Your coherence and cohesion is assessing how sequential your work is. Are you able to have an order in your work, or is it scattered? That's what the coherence and cohesion will be looking out for. How you present your ideas. Is it logical? Proper paraphrasing as well. It will be noted in this place. Is there a clear progression in your work? Are you moving from point A to point B? That's what your coherence and cohesion will be looking at. And then talking about cohesion, it will be assessing how you use a range of cohesive devices to link, your words, to link your your paragraphs together to help you make sense of what you are writing. Then we move to your lexical resource. The lexical resource talking about your range of vocabularies, how you can show precision in what you're writing, your appropriate word formation, correct spellings, you avoiding error as much as possible. using synonyms to explain yourself instead of repeating the same words over and over again. The use of adverbs, the use of adjectives to express yourself in this writing. That's what it will be looking out for. Then we move over to your grammatical range and accuracy, which has to do with your sentence formation, how you form your sentence and join them together. Remember that in primary and secondary school, where we were taught in English language, we were taught simple, compound, and complex sentences. The use of these sentence types to make sense in your writing. Okay. Also, it will be accessing your grammar formation, appropriate punctuations, all right, to avoid error. That's what grammatical range and accuracy will be looking at. So depending on the type of essay that you are giving or the type of question that you see, there are different languages that you can use to express yourself and to answer your question based on what you have in front of you. For some of these questions, you can see some of them are in numbers, they are in percentages, they are steps in a process, and you need to use the appropriate words. All right. There are different types of tasks. An IELTS writing task, one question can either be either a change over time or a static task. A change over time where you have a specific period of time, they'll tell you from so and so period to so and so period, or they'll tell you if it is static, for example, they'll tell you in the year 2022. All right. But whether it is static or it is change over time, it will determine the kind of grammar, the kind of linking words, the kind of verbs and adverbs that you are going to use in the description of this writing. Generally, we have what we call the structure in IELTS writing tasks. Both in task 1 and in task 2, there are different structures for both of them. But for you to score a very good band in your IELTS writing task, you need to follow the structure of the writing task. I've read some books, I've listened to some authors, and I have discovered that the structure is made up of an introduction and an overview. Just an introduction and an overview, which at the end of the day will give you about 3 paragraphs all in all. These 3 paragraphs should be able to provide for you your 150, 160, or maximum of 170 words for you to score the appropriate mark. Okay. You are welcome if you are just joining us. If you see what I have written there, I said that you can drop your questions. Drop your questions so that we will get to it at the end of the class. I'll come to all of the questions. Okay. Now, um, by virtue of us discussing the structure of the writing task, I have divided it into 3 parts. Okay, it's in 3 parts. Your into 3 paragraphs, but there are 2 parts: the introduction and the overview. Your overview is what is going to give you 2 paragraphs, 2 different paragraphs, depending on what you are writing on. The content of your overview is dependent on the kind of question that you are asked. An introduction is a paraphrase of the question prompt to the overall statement. Now, what is an overall statement? An overall statement is something that you deduce. A statement that you make is a conclusion, more like a conclusion from the beginning. You understand? Because in the writing task 1, there's no conclusion, but what you can see, all right, what you can judge by merely looking at the beginning of at this question, and then you have to write it from the beginning, because that will be your overall discovery, overall statement, overall um thing that you are going to be writing on. It's more or less like I said, you concluding even before you started. All right. We will do a sample of a question. I will describe a sample of a question, and then we can at the end of the day understand what an overall statement is in detail. Now, it's a paraphrase. Your introduction is a paraphrase and your overall statement together in 1 paragraph. Okay. If for instance they have asked you to describe a map of a particular place, maybe the map of your village, for example. Now, your introduction will be that question prompt that you were given, paraphrased using synonyms. We do know that synonyms are similar words. They are words that we can use in place of the other without changing the meaning of the original statement. we use different words. For instance, if I say Joy is a girl, for instance, and you want to um, use synonyms, you need to check what you can change there and see what you can replace them with. My name is Joy, it cannot be changed, so it's still my name, right? But for a girl, we have female, okay, that can be used in place of a girl. If you're going to go for pronouns for the second person, you can use she, all right, in place of a girl. We all know that the she and the her, they are affiliated with the feminine gender. Okay, so now you can change the gender, which is a girl, into either a she, a her, depending on what statement you're making, or a female. So yes, synonyms are words that we use in place of others in a sentence or in a paragraph without changing the original meaning of that statement. You make sense. You have not used the examiner's words. So that's what you're going to be doing in your introduction. A paraphrase of your question prompt and then your overall statement, which is your discovery. Overall, what has happened in my map, the map of your village that you're describing? Are there some very spectacular places? Okay, maybe is the map from 1970 different from map of 1920? All right, you are comparing both of them. So overall, what can you see that is in this one of 1970 and is not in the one of 1920? Or the one that you can, what is more here and is less here? Or what is not even there at all? Or what has been changed? What did they modify? Did they renovate anything? The spectacular information is what you are going to pick, one or two of them, and add it to your paraphrase. At the end, you get an introduction. Do we understand? That's what the introduction is about. A paraphrase of the question prompt and an overall statement. It makes the first paragraph of the task one, and here your keywords are identified first, like I said, and then the statement is paraphrased in your own words using identified synonyms, okay, without changing the meaning, all right, and then your overall statement is what you can identify or note on a single glance at whatever task is before you. Now we move to the overview. What is the overview of your work? That is the assignment that you're there for. That is the design of the work they want you to bring out. All right. The key features of the given task is what you now discuss in your overview in details. Although the content of an overview is determined by a type of task, okay, that you are given. However, there are two paragraphs generally for an overview, irrespective of the question type. Now, the first paragraph you will bring out from your overview, and the second paragraph, which will be your second and third paragraph in the actual writing, is dependent on the information you are asked. If, for instance, they have given you two maps and they expect you to compare and contrast them, then your first paragraph can talk about the first map and the second one will discuss the second map. That's a way to do it. Another way to do it is where you have similar features, you can pick the features in a twinkle of an eye. At a glance, you look at these features before you and you make, maybe you have identified 8 features, similar features, yeah, and you want to talk about them. You can now divide them into four, and you make a paragraph of the first four, you make a second paragraph of the last four, and that will give you your 2 paragraphs for your overview. If, for instance, you want to describe them one after the other, you don't want to compare and contrast as it is, if that's not what your question is specifically saying, then your first paragraph will be in your overview, will be for you to describe map A, and then you go to map B in your second paragraph and describe it. And at the end of the day, you have an introduction, paragraph 1, then you have overview, paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, which will now give you 3 paragraphs in your writing task 1. All right. So what are you describing? What kind of description, what kind of task one do you have before you? That will now determine the kind of words and adverbs and adjectives, okay, that you use. But before we go there are certain things that you need to understand in the writing task one. You need to read the task and understand it. If you don't understand the task, eventually you are going to give an answer that is out of point. And this will not help you because you will make mistakes and you might not make sense. And at the end of the day, you end up scoring a very low band. You need to paraphrase your keywords, okay? You need to identify this information. What kind of information is this? Is this a map? What are they asking me to do? Are they asking me to compare them? Are they just asking me to analyze them? All right. Am I just going to point out the key features and just write about them? Or am I supposed to be saying the difference between two things? Or am I supposed to be noting major differences? That's what you should understand. You need to identify the type of information that is before you, and then you pick your highlights. You identify your highlights. You work out a summary in your head quickly. You can even write on your question sheet or your paper that is in front of you. You can use a pen or a pencil. At the end of the day, rule it out if you don't have the time to erase it if you use the pencil. All right. Then you need to plan the structure. So now that you know what the structure is, what do you do? How do you plan your structure? You group your data. And this is not going to happen in the exam hall. It comes from practice. So I tell people, by all means, try as much as possible to have rehearsed, to have practiced, to have written enough. You should have written at least 3 different types on all of these questions. All the question types, there are about 6 to 7 of them. Ensure that you have solved 2 to 3 different types on each of the question types. You have solved 3 questions on each of the question types so that you're familiar with these question types, irrespective of the way that they might present them to you. All right. Then you train yourself to write quickly. Time yourself in your practice. Set an alarm. Set a stopwatch for yourself and say, okay, this task that I'm doing, I'm starting now in 15 minutes. I should finish. You time yourself to write a task one in 15 minutes to 18 minutes. In the actual exam, you will be more disciplined and you'll do better than that. Because in the actual exam, the rush of adrenaline, it makes you do things a lot quicker. And because you do things a lot quicker, you are also prone to making mistakes. Therefore, it is better for you to train yourself, all right, and to time yourself, train yourself previously before this exam, so that you'll be in control of whatever is going on. Okay. Then don't forget, you need to proofread and make corrections as your time permits. It comes with training. It comes with training. So there are 7 types of questions, and these are graphs. We have bar charts, we have pie charts, we have diagrams, okay, we have maps, process diagrams, and tables. All right. Irrespective of the type of question, the structure is the same. I already told you that. So what you are writing is dependent on what you have been asked. Yeah, what you are writing is dependent on what you have been asked. Yeah. You may be given a single paragraph to write on, or you may have a double paragraph to write on. If you have a single paragraph to write on, grouping of data will help you a long way. The ability to quickly separate and see what is here and what is there. The ability for you to quickly differentiate between things, numbers, percentages. It will help you. It will go a long way to help you, and you can only achieve this by training. If you have a double map, you have a double graph, a double pie chart, or whatever is before you, and there are 2 of them, it's easy in a way and it's difficult in a way. It's easy if you it depends on how you want to write it. I usually advise people, if there's no restriction from the question prompt that you get, I personally prefer to write about one map. I mean, one in one paragraph and the other in the next paragraph. That will be more of a description. If they have asked you to describe, is different from when they're asking you to compare. All right. If they say differences between this, and they're asking you to compare specifically, then you need to pick data from A and B and compare them, whether the reduction or the increase, all right, or the ones that were stable over the years. That is what you are going to be doing, and this usually happens for a change over time kind of task. I said it from the beginning, a change over time is when you have something that has happened maybe in different years or over the years. For instance, they tell you that these are 2 maps, 19 the map of Lagos State, okay, between the years 2025 and 2028 is a change over time. Or they tell you the number of people that access healthcare in the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital between 1980 and 1992. Excuse me. You need to know, All right, whether it is change over time or it is static, because it will help you with the kind of words, linking verbs and adjectives or qualifying words, things that you are supposed to use. It will help you. Now, specifically, when you have these question types, there are certain words that are associated with them, which your examiner will be on the lookout for under your lexical resource. We talked about lexical resource that I said is your vocabularies, right? Now, your examiner will be looking for certain vocabularies that you are supposed to use to describe this particular task. For example, if you have a bar chart or a line graph, you will be talking about an upward trend or a downward trend. An upward trend when there's an increase, was like a surge, was like a climb, it soared, it leapt, or there's a leap, or it rocketed. Okay, those are the kind of words that your examiner will be looking for. Things that show that there's an increase, things that show that there was an upward movement, an upward trend. If you're describing a bar chart and maybe a line graph, something that has changed over time, and there is a good change or a positive change or an increase in something, those are the kind of words that you are expected to be using to describe them. If you want to describe downward trend or downward movement, there are verbs also that you can use. Words like decrease, okay, increase, or there was a plunge, or a plummeted, or a sink, a slip back, or a drop, a reduction. Those are the kind of words, the kind of verbs that you are expected to use. For example, when you said, yeah, it means that it was very quick. Okay, but when you say it dropped, it might just be, a small decrease in something. So you also need to know the meaning of these words that you're using. And that's why you need to rehearse and practice well before you write your actual exams. Now, you have adverbs and adjectives as well that you use. For instance, what kind of decrease, what kind of decline did you notice? Okay, was it significant? Is it significant? Does it make any more difference? Was it gradual? Did it happen suddenly? Those Was it a dramatic change? Was it a dramatic, decline? Is it substantial? Is it something that has affected another thing? Is it something that is worthy of note? So words like significant, like dramatic, like substantial. Those are the kind of adjectives that you are going to be using. All right. And maybe if the change is something that did not last, okay, was it just is it steady? Is it a steady change? Did it happen in how many 4 5 years or over a period of time and is long enough? Okay, can you say yes, it was a continuous thing? Can you say it was a constant thing that eventually there is this and this? Was it static? All right, or is it consistent? Those are the kind of adjectives that I expect you to use when you are describing things. So is it a sudden decline? Is it a static change, or is it a constant thing, or will you say it was a sharp plunge? All right, so you need to know these things so that you can use them correctly. Now, if you're doing a bar chart, a line graph. Now, if you have a question that is talking about the 20% decrease, or the number of people that attended maybe the hospital for obstetric care, for instance, in 2024, how many is it? Is a certain percentage of it, okay, over the years? Maybe there was an increase in the number of people. You sure know that this thing is talking about percentages. If it is describing numbers, then you know what to use. You know what words to put in place of those numbers and things that you are expected to write in. If you have any questions so far, you might need to um to write your question so that as soon as possible. I will be ending this class shortly, but that does not stop me from answering your questions. So if you are doing a graph, the words might be different from when you are doing a map. All right, because if in your map you are not describing maybe articles and stuffs and maybe data that did not increase in size, or if you're not describing such data, these particular adjectives and adverbs may not work for you. But if that's what you are describing, then they might work for you. I want to see, I've been trying to see if I can share my screen to show you something. And yeah, before I go, like I was telling you about the adjectives to use as well. If you're having a pie chart, yeah, that's a perfect example for percentage description. If you're having a pie chart, you know that it's in percentages because it's a certain percent of a circle, isn't it? That's what you are describing. So yes, let's see the questions that you have. Let me come back to you here. All right. If you are watching this later on, you can still drop your question. I'll get a notification and I will be able to back to you at the end of the day. Let me come here actually. I'm going to drop a question now and we can all solve it together because I've not shared my screen here. I'm still not very familiar with this. I just want to keep this work here for people so that they can come back to it later and watch. So yes, there's no questions yet. All right, so anytime you come on and you have your question, please drop your question and let's tackle it. But I'll go back to the WhatsApp group now and then drop this question sample and we can all solve it together. Thank you very much. Back to the WhatsApp group until I figure how to post in questions here and we solve them together. Thank you for watching and good day.